Let's dismantle the biggest, most commonly experienced piece of subconscious doubt that gets planted in our minds as HSPs. You're too sensitive. How many times have you heard this one? How deeply is this ingrained in your experience as an HSP? I'm going to help you take down this stupid phrase once and for all so we can stop holding so much negative power over your belief about your own sensitivity. Because remember, if you believe that there is something fundamentally wrong with or bad about your sensitivity, you're going to have a really hard time embracing it, which is something you need to do in order to thrive. First of all, as HSPs, we have sensitive nervous systems, and there is a difference between acknowledging that someone's nervous system is sensitive and telling them that they are emotionally sensitive. Having a more intense emotional experience is a very real aspect of being an HSP that stems from the way our brains process our experiences. But what these people who have told us that we are too sensitive are typically trying to communicate are something along the lines of too emotional, taking things too personally, being too needy or too clingy, being too much or too intense, crying too easily, that kind of message. But let's think for a second past the hurtful message and contemplate why they might be saying this to us. These people were likely either conditioned to believe their sensitivity was a weakness, so they thought they should pass that perceived truth onto you, with the intention to protect you from this harsh world, to shame you because they were uncomfortable with their own sensitive side because they were shamed when they were sensitive as well, to squelch your emotions because they didn't want or know how to deal with your feelings, or because they are uncomfortable with their own emotions and therefore were triggered by yours, to try in a non-ideal way to communicate to you that it would be helpful for you to learn how to regulate and soothe your own emotions instead of expecting someone else to do that for you. Or we're trying to help you quote-unquote adapt to the world around you so that you could succeed in life, when in reality that's the opposite of what HSPs are supposed to do, which I'll explain more about in a moment, why we as HSPs are not supposed to just mold to fit our environments. But my point is, whether they had bad intentions to shame you so that you wouldn't embarrass them or make them uncomfortable with their own sensitivity, or whether their intentions were actually good, to try to help you in some way, to try to point you towards your own emotional accountability, or tell you whatever it is that they thought would actually help you succeed in life. Regardless of their intention, this statement of "you're too sensitive" is not supportive. It's not inherently true, nor in most cases is it likely even about you at all. So as hurtful and annoying as this statement is, do we need to take it to heart? Is it true? Is it beneficial for us to take on this belief ourselves, even if someone influential in our life genuinely believes it to be true? This conscious discernment of whether or not a belief is actually valid is not something we had the luxury or capability of doing when we were young and impressionable, and we're simply looking to others in our world to help us understand how it works. While these people may not have intended for us to take this as a message that we somehow need to be less of what we inherently are to survive and succeed in this world, that is how most of us interpreted it and internalized it as, which is an incredibly harmful belief for anyone to adopt about themselves, that in order to be a success in life, we must abandon our true self. And let me dismantle why this is not a fundamental truth for HSPs to live by, and therefore disprove the idea that HSPs by nature are too sensitive, are wrong for being sensitive, or are too sensitive to be able to thrive. Everywhere around the world, the HSP trait exists in roughly 20% of the population, where non-HSPs make up the other 80%. For simplicity's sake, for my example, let's talk about an early village at the dawn of civilization. There are plenty of things that need to get done for this community to function and thrive. Building homes, tending to livestock, trading goods, farming, educating the children, a lot of things that happen in the midst of the village, in the busy hustle and bustle of the community. There are also important tasks to be done to protect the village, like keeping an eye out for storms, for pirates or invaders hoping to steal from the village, negotiations that need to be made over property lines with neighboring territories, etc. There's a lot of different types of tasks, right? All important, every single one, otherwise the village won't survive. Some folks are naturally geared towards the kinds of tasks that require more energy, multitasking, or to put up with louder, busier environments and still be able to just put blinders on and get the job done. We need these kinds of people for these speedier, heavier tasks to get done. We can't have the people doing these jobs getting overwhelmed, drained, or fixated on too many details, or they would burn out, get distracted, or take too long. There are also other tasks suited for people who are good at noticing small details, who work best behind the scenes creating goods, studying the weather patterns, or on the outskirts of the village scouting for potential threats. We can't have the people doing these tasks not be as keenly aware of their surroundings or not be as particular about the fine details. As you may have guessed by now, the non-HSPs with less sensitive nervous systems are better suited for the tasks that are inside the hustle and bustle of the village. And the HSPs with the more sensitive nervous systems are more suited for those tasks outside of the hustle and bustle of the village. The roles in which it is paramount to notice subtle details. The ones who can look over the village and notify the ones busy working if they need to know about something. While the ones who are focused on the main community building tasks at hand can just focus on what they're doing. Now, if you tried to ask these two groups to switch places, the whole village would fall apart. And to take this one step further, imagine if the majority of these villagers were the ones out tracking the weather and watching for potential threats, negotiating with other villages, etc., and the minority of the villagers were the ones in charge of getting all the things done inside the village. You would have way too many people designated to taking in information and relaying it to the community, and way too few people pushing forward what needs to be done to keep up with production inside the village. Again, in this scenario, the entire fabric of the village falls apart. HSPs and non-HSPs rely on each other in order for the greater good of the whole society to be accomplished. One group is not better or more useful than the other. They are both incredibly valuable and are just best suited for different roles. And that's how it's meant to be. Two counterparts working in unison so the whole system thrives. Now, what does that tell you? HSPs were not meant to fit into the majority of society. We are designed to fill the roles that are not within the mainstream of the workforce. We were not built to do the 9-to-5 life. We were meant to be the scouts, the advisors, the protectors, the negotiators, the philosophers, etc. And if HSPs were never meant to be forced to fit into the majority, we should not feel shame for not fitting in at all. We were meant to do things differently, and that's totally okay. That's exactly how it was intended to be. HSPs are not too sensitive. We're just the right amount of sensitive for the roles we were meant to do in this world. Just like the non-HSPs' brains and nervous systems are just the right amount of sensitive for them to excel in their roles too. And I want to make it clear that it's not that I'm saying that HSPs are more intelligent and non-HSPs are just here to do the brunt work. Non-HSPs can also be great at tasks that require discernment and observation. And HSPs can also be great at zoning in on a task and just getting things done. The example I gave is just a simplification to demonstrate our innate strengths and to help you see that we are all unique and all deserve to find the roles and environments that suit us. No person, HSP or non-HSP, should ever be forced into an environment or role that goes against their nature, because that is a recipe for disaster no matter who you are. One of my favorite quotes illustrates this idea perfectly. It says, "When a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower." This logic applies to people too. If you're not thriving in your current circumstances, don't jump to the conclusion that it is you that is off. Think about how you can adjust your environment, your job, the people you interact most with, your lifestyle to suit you versus trying to change who you are to suit your environment. Being in an environment that's in alignment with us is crucial for our health and happiness as HSPs because of how deeply affected we are by our surroundings. This close connection to our environment is precisely what makes us HSPs. Studies show that we as HSPs are deeply affected by the negatives in our environments, and therefore are more susceptible to negative outcomes from experiencing these negatives in our environment, more so than for non-HSPs. This may be validating for you to hear if you felt as though you haven't been able to cope as well with your surroundings or experiences than your non-HSP counterparts. But to that same effect, HSPs are also deeply affected by the positives in their environment too, and therefore are more likely than a non-HSP to have more positive outcomes as a result of these experiences. Why is this exciting? Because this means that the HSP trait actually comes with huge potential. The potential to vibrantly thrive if the environment around us is supportive to us. Which means however much you are struggling right now is the same depth and intensity with which you could be thriving if properly supported. And this isn't just about the support that you get from other people. This is also about the support that you give yourself, because you are also a big factor in your own life, and you do have the power to change and influence your circumstances and environment. So if you were told over and over again that you're too sensitive, it's likely that you've adopted a belief that you're somehow wrong for being as sensitive as you are, and that being highly sensitive puts a glass ceiling over what you're able to accomplish and experience in life. So remember, the amount of sensitive in which you are is exactly how much you are supposed to be, and that being highly sensitive actually comes with great potential to thrive in the right environment and in the right role. This statement, "you're too sensitive," that we just dismantled is just one belief that many of us have adopted about ourselves as HSPs. There are plenty more, so keep an eye out for other videos of mine where I help you break down these unsupportive belief systems and replace them with things that are more supportive and more truthful, and begin to heal your mindset one belief at a time. So now that we've talked about tackling your mindset on your road to thriving as an HSP, let's talk about wellness. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I'm a mindset and wellness coach for HSPs, and there's a reason for that. Healing our mindset helps get these giant hurdles out of the way so that we can be more in control of our decisions and responses in life. But once that's taken care of, we still need to do the work to make the changes in our lives that we need to make, to take care of ourselves, to take action. That's the wellness part. So let's talk about that in this next video I have up for you, all about the most underrated and important key to health and happiness, especially as an HSP.